Hello, and welcome to Module 1 on Learning Across Generations. In this module, we will be learning about the different generations of therapists who are working in the clinical setting and why it is important to know who they are. A generation is a group of people who were born and lived at the same general time period and share common knowledge and experiences that shape their thoughts, attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. Throughout this module, we will learn various characteristics of each generation. These characteristics are not meant to be a rigid set of traits for individuals in each group, but are simply general characteristics that were formed within each generation through shared experiences within the world during their formative years. Each generation have built-in experiences and bonding mechanisms within them that have contributed to the development of many collective traits. Many of these generational factors influenced each generation and their views on work ethic, learning, and how they interact with the people around them. Depending on which source you look at, the time span for each generation can vary somewhat. By the end of this module, the participant should be able to identify and explain attributes of Generation X, the Millennial generation, and Generation Z. Be able to articulate the differences between the generation they belong to and the generation to which they do not belong. And finally, be able to explain the benefits and challenges associated with having clinicians from multiple generations working together within a clinical setting. Baby boomers are individuals between the ages of 58 and 76 years old. They are the children of the post-World War II baby boom. They are hardworking and were the driving force for the civil rights movement and the feminist movement. They lived through the assassination of both JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. Events such as the Watergate scandal and resulting resignation of President Nixon and the Vietnam War contributed to a loss of confidence in and disillusionment with the government. Baby boomers are self-assured, college-educated, and value teamwork. Most baby boomers are either retired or nearing retirement. Many of our current managers are from this generation, and business will be needing future generations to step in and fill these roles. They have paved the way for those of us in the profession of hand therapy. The Hand Therapy Certification Commission was founded in 1989, and the first CHTs were most likely members of this generation. They are the ones who have mentored you and have influenced you to want to do the same. Generation X, the forgotten middle child. Largely the children of those independent, empowered, and hardworking baby boomers. Opposite of the post-World War II baby boom, the parents of members of Generation X were busy building their careers and independence. For the first time, women were able to control whether they became pregnant or not. This resulted in improved opportunities for women in the workforce and fewer children being born. Two parents in the workforce brought about the latchkey generation. As a result, members of Generation X are highly independent, have a survivor mentality, and dislike authority. Due to the fact that they were left alone much of their childhood, members of Generation X are family-focused. In the workplace, there is no automatic loyalty from members of this generation. Any rules within the workforce need to make sense. Generation X has been influenced by the beginning of the internet, the first cell phones, the Challenger disaster, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the Gulf War. Members of Generation X are now the ones primarily in senior positions in many clinical settings. Members of Generation X are the next generation of mentors who now have the responsibility to train up a new generation of hand therapists. Now let's talk millennials. Making up 26% of the American population, they often get a bad rap. Millennials are the generation that had helicopter parents who have been highly involved in every aspect of their lives. They are the everyone gets a trophy generation. They have sometimes been labeled as being entitled, snowflakes, or self-centered. But before we are too hard on our millennial friends, we ought to look in the mirror. Haim Ginott once said, Parents often talk about the younger generation as if they had nothing to do with it. In the millennials' defense, they come by their traits honestly, just like the rest of us do. As we have already discussed, we are all products of the events that happened in and around our lives, and these events have shaped us to be who we are. Millennials grew up in a time where terrorism and mass violence became common events that were easily reported both through the TV and internet. Events like the Oklahoma City bombing, the Waco massacre, Columbine, 9/11, and the Iraq War all contributed to their upbringing. Millennials were placed in car seats and seat belts in vehicles with airbags and baby on board signs. Everything was arranged for the millennials. Starting with play dates and moving forward to organized sports and other extracurricular activities, everything was structured and planned out for the millennial. Much of the involvement by parents was motivated by a desire to provide every opportunity possible for their children. They searched for the best daycares, schools, and college prep schools for their child. As a result, the millennial generation is often more educated and well-grounded than those of previous generations. They also tend to have a lot of anxiety, specifically performance anxiety. Keep note of this as we move forward in this module. Millennials are also a generation who wants fairness and justice. They do well working in teams and in groups. Many millennials are starting to become mentors, and the last of the millennial generation are now finishing college and entering the workforce. Generation Z are quickly becoming our most recent new graduates entering into our clinics as students and new grad OTs. This generation is by far the most technological generation to date. They have never known the world before 9/11. They make up 18% of the world's population. Terrorism and Google are a major part of their vocabulary. This generation has been overindulged, given fewer limits, and have often been protected from failure or disappointment. This generation has had parents who are very involved in their lives. Many Gen Zers refer to their parents as their best friend. They have been online since they were toddlers, and many had cell phones at a young age. For this generation, computers and electronics are just another appliance. This has contributed to a deterioration of face-to-face interaction, and many from Gen Z lack social skills. Individuals from Gen Z are environmentally conscious. They care about the state of the world, and they want to make it a better place. Members of Gen Z are willing to work hard for causes greater than themselves. They are loyal, open-minded, and independent learners. Online instruction, especially after COVID-19, has contributed to Gen Z being independent learners who do well with self-paced learning. Take a moment and pause the screencast and reflect. How do you identify with other members of your generation? How do you differ? How have the events of your life shaped your work ethic, learning preferences, and how you view your role as a hand therapist? So what does all of this have to do with hand therapy? Consider this scenario. Stephanie is an OT/CHT with 20 plus years of experience and a member of Generation X. Abigail is a recent graduate OT who is interested in becoming a CHT. Abigail is a member of the millennial generation. Stephanie has been tasked with mentoring Abigail through the process. Pause the screencast and review what you have learned about each of their generations. Reflect on the expectations each may bring to this mentoring relationship. Then resume the screencast. As a member of Generation X, Stephanie is an independent self-starter. Abigail is a millennial and was always given step-by-step instructions. Can you see how these two may have opposite expectations from the mentoring process? As mentors, we look at our mentees who are from a generation different than our own through our own generational lens. It can cause a narrow view of how that generation thinks when we do this. For example, If you are from Generation X and believe that doing a good job means staying at the clinic until all of the laundry is complete and ready for the next day, you may have difficulty understanding why a young therapist leaves right at 5 o'clock to head home. Not only are they leaving before all the laundry is done, but they are also not being a team player. Meanwhile, the younger therapist has always been told exactly what to do by someone in charge. As a result, making sure the laundry is complete isn't something they even think about before leaving. All that is needed in this situation is a little perspective. Once you can see how the other person views a situation, you can then come up with solutions that will work for both parties. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, by 2024, millennials and Generation Z will make up 50% of the labor force, and by 2030, 25% of the workforce will be made up of millennials. As these two generations will make up the majority of new therapists we will mentor, we will focus on these two generations for the remainder of Module 1. Mentoring millennials begins by first truly caring for the individual as a person. Millennials respond best to kindness and positivity. They want the truth and have faced more adversity than you might think, so they can handle it. They do best with constructive criticism, but be specific with your expectations of what is required. If the laundry needs to be completed before going home for the day, tell them. Don't assume they will just watch what you do and follow your example. Lay out your expectations. When things are going to be challenging, prepare them. As a mentor, it is important that you interact often with your millennial mentees, and when you do, be encouraging and reassuring. When teaching them about treatment techniques, explain why that particular technique is important, how it will impact the client, and identify any roadblocks they may encounter. Be open to them asking questions and welcome those questions. Choose the right time and place for corrective feedback. This needs to be done in private. And praise them in public, and praise them often. Coach them rather than just supervising and teaching. And most importantly, have fun. When mentoring Generation Z, it is important to treat them with value. Incorporate technology when possible and improve and provide flexibility. Be honest and provide routine. Reward them often and correct immediately. Remember, they are used to immediate feedback through social media platforms such as TikTok and Snapchat. Due to this, they may need help with learning the social skills and social cues needed for meaningful interactions with clients. Lead by example and model those interactions for them when working with clients. It may be necessary to orient them to the obvious. Lay out specific expectations for them. Provide them with a job description. Be fair, be welcoming to them, and have fun. We are just now seeing what Generation Z will look like in the clinical setting. Expect great things from them. We will have better relationships with people of any generation if we are willing to listen to them and respect their opinions, even if we disagree with them. Our path to respect begins with gaining a better understanding of why people of different generations think and act the way they do. Each generation has unique influences that make them specifically and specially equipped to offer our clients excellent care using their unique perspectives. Through understanding not only who we are mentoring, but also who we are and who is mentoring us, our eyes will be opened to varying perspectives, which will only serve to make us more effective mentors to the next generation of hand therapists, millennials, Generation Z, and beyond. Thank you for engaging and participating in this module on mentoring across generations. Here are the references for this module. See you in Module 2.